So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Thursday, August 4th Planning Commission meeting. Our first item on the agenda is the opening announcements, please.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those in attendance, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representatives to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. All speakers at the podium, please remove your face mask before speaking into the microphone. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the Planning Department. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on all the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to the District Court.
Thank you. Next item is roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Bill Johnson?
Here.
Fox?
Here.
McKay?
Here.
Green?
Here.
Duell?
Here.
Here. Blick? Josh Blick? Josh Blick?
I'll text him.
Right now, absent. Nix? Absent. Foster?
Here.
Warren?
Here.
Joe Johnson? Joe Johnson? Absent. Miles?
Here.
Hartman?
Here.
Cunningham?
Here.
Williams Bay?
Here.
Sir, I show 3 absent and 11 present.
Thank you. The next item is approval of the prior MAPC meeting notes, and I show Commissioner Green, McKay, and Nix were not present. Look for a motion to approve.
I move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Mr. Hartman, second by Ms. Foster. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody
Aye.
opposed?
No,
Okay.
I abstain.
Now we'll go through the agenda to see how many items we can take on consent. Subdivision item 2022-00034 has been deferred, so we will not hear anything on that case today. Item 2.2, subdivision item 2022 2022-00037. Is there anybody on the commission that wants to hear this case? Any commissioners of virtual want to hear this case? Hearing none. Anybody in the commission chambers want to hear this case? How about virtual? Anybody that's virtual want to hear this case? We'll take that on consent. Next one's 2.3 subdivision 2022-00038. Any of the commissioners want to hear this case? How about the commissioners that are virtual want to hear this case? Seeing none, hearing none. Anybody in the commission chambers want to hear this case? Is there anybody virtual want to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take that on consent.
I move to approve agenda items 2.2 and 2.3.
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Miles to approve 2.2 and 2.3, second by Mr. Green. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next is vacation cases 2022-00012. Is there anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Any commissioners that are virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the commission chambers want to hear this case? Anybody virtual want to hear this case? We'll take that on consent.
I'd move we approve item number 3.1.
Second.
Got a motion to approve by Ms. Fox, second by Mr. McKay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Now we'll go through the public hearing items. The first one, 4.1, conditional
Mr.
2020.
Johnson has arrived.
So just a quick note that Mr. Joe Johnson has joined.
Okay. Yep, there he is.
I'm here.
All right. 4.1, conditional use 2022-00026. Is there any commissioners want to hear this case?
I just have a question.
All right, let me see if any commissioners that are virtual want to hear this case? Is there anybody in the commission chambers want to hear this case? Is there anybody virtual want to hear this case? Okay, Mr. Green, you got a question on it?
Yeah, I don't have any problems with this case. I just want to make sure that both Spring Hollows and Willow Creek streets are standard width streets. They're not the narrow streets. The reason why I ask is because if it's a narrow street and they've got parking on the streets, then it's going to become problematic for emergency vehicles to get.
If the applicant is here, I will defer to him. Oh, apologize. I will defer to him because that's not something that we looked into as a planning commission
Okay.
or planning department.
I'm sorry.
We didn't look into that.
I understand. Who are you going to defer to?
Oh, if the applicant is here, if he can
Okay.
answer that.
That would be.
Chris?
You want to address that?
Chris Bell.
Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Chris Bohm from Garver, 1995 Midfield here in Wichita, Kansas. To answer your question, Mr. Green, yes, those are all full-width right-of-ways and full-width streets to it, and then a new loop road being constructed right now to the southwest of it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That's all I had.
Thank you.
I just was, sometimes we get those narrow streets in there, and if there's going to be parking, because they're requesting to eliminate the need for the parking, there was going to be street parking, so.
Yes,
That's
good
all.
point.
Thank you.
Okay, we can take that on consent now. Item 4.2, 2022-00027. Any one of the commissioners want to hear this case? Any commissioners in virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the commission chambers want to hear this case? Is there anybody virtual want to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take that on consent. Item 4.3 and 4.4 we will hear. The next one's 4.5, zoning case 2022-00036. Is there anybody on the commission want to hear this case? Any commissioners that are virtual want to hear this case? Anybody in the commission chambers want to hear this case? Is there anybody virtual want to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take that on consent.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve items 4.1, 4.2, and 4.5.
Second.
Got a motion to approve 4, 1, 2, and 5 by Mr. Green, second by Ms. Foster. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Warren. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we're going to hear 4.3, CUP 2022-00032.
Good afternoon, Planning Commission. Philip Zevenbergen with planning staff. CUP 2232 is a request to amend the Wichita Destination Development CUP DP 333 to specifically address sign number 4. Paul, if you go to the CUP drawing exhibit that we have, there you go. This illustration here shows you several of the permitted signs along the property. This property is located at Greenwich, which is right here, and this is the K96 frontage. If you're familiar, this is Greenwich Shopping Center, where Dave & Buster's is, a lot of big box retail. Sign number 4 is currently not constructed. It would be located, if it is at its current location in the CUP, would be located here, kind of just south of that first roundabout in the Greenwich Place Shopping Center. The applicant, one of the requests is to relocate it to this location down here between signs 6 and 7. It would meet the minimum distance requirement, separation requirement as required by the CUP, so there's no issues with it moving. But that's where they're looking to do along the curvature of the K96 highway. They're also requesting to increase the permitted size from 500 feet to 504 feet. If you want to go to the, I think we have the billboard exhibit in there. Either that or you can look at page, I apologize if we didn't have the image in there, but if you look at page 8 of your staff report, they provided an exhibit to show that the size they're requesting of 504 feet would meet a standard size template for a billboard orientation of the sign, as opposed to the kind of standard pylon with a flag orientation, more vertically oriented signs that are currently constructed along the highway. Of course, that increase in square footage is fairly negligible when you consider the sizes of the signs compared to the other ones. Not many people would really notice the difference in size. It would have a horizontal orientation. They would keep the general visual feel as that exhibit shows, keeping kind of a pylon on the bottom with the GP for the Greenwich Place moniker at the base. It would just be more of a billboard orientation at the top. Of course, that increase in sign size has to increase the allowable square footage of signs along K96 to match, so they increase that allowable size by 4 square feet as well, just to make sure everything is equal. The big thing about the request for sign number 4 is currently sign number 4 could advertise businesses within Greenwich Place, which the majority of the signs do already. The current language of the CUP allows it to advertise businesses within the Greenwich and 96th Starbond District. If you go to that map, Paul, we'll show you the extent of what that looks like. And we might not have got a, I apologize that that's not there. On page 9 of your staff report, there's a blue outline. In general, the Starbond District includes businesses south of K96 on Greenwich, so you're talking about Cabela's, Target, Hobby Lobby, Academy Sports. It's where everything on the east side of Greenwich where McAllister's, Starbucks, the new Chick-fil-A going in, there's a hotel in there, all of those businesses south of K96 on Greenwich. It even goes south of 21st Street a little bit along the K96 frontage. In addition, it includes Stryker Soccer Complex, all the businesses within Greenwich Place, in addition to the new Topgolf facility property at 29th and Greenwich. So a fairly extensive amount of businesses could be allowed to use sign number 4 for advertising purposes along K96. So that's currently written into the CUP. So in a sense, it could be an off-site sign, but it's a very limited because it's just advertising businesses within the locality of K96 and Greenwich within that Starbond district. The applicant is requesting to make it a full off-site sign or billboard, meaning it could just advertise whoever rents it out, whatever message is on there of whoever rents it out. The sign code, when it comes to limited industrial zoning, that is, there's a sign code has provisions for what size and how high and all this other stuff that the sign would have to meet. It deviates from that a little bit, not to the point of really having any concern. The bigger concern is section 2404-200 of the sign code specifically prohibits off-site or billboard signs along K96. The exception to the rule right now is that this can advertise signs within the Starbond district. So in a sense, it is an off-site sign, but really the intent of that sign code is to basically prohibit billboards. And this has been in place since K96 was constructed. If you drive it was one of those things when I discovered that part of the sign code, writing this staff report, driving K96 on a site visit, realizing that there's actually no billboards on K96. Something you just don't realize until you realize it. So this would provide the very first true off-site billboard sign on K96 from I-135 all the way down to Kellogg, the entire extent of it. The sign code regulations state that it is prohibited from I-135 to the east city limits of Wichita, which in this case does include the entire frontage of K96 down to Kellogg. Properties surrounding it are limited industrial with limited commercial. There is some single family off to the east. It is single family homes. So if a sign is constructed, it's really not going to disrupt because the signs are located 400 feet away from the backyards of these homes. So there's really no concern about a sign moving to this location. Those signs are permitted anyway. One of the things that staff looked at, though this is a CUP amendment, and community unit plans can provide exceptions to the zoning code as well as the sign code. They do have that flexibility to give more than what the standard zoning or standard sign code would allow. Staff took the opportunity to review it kind of based on the 5 criteria of a variance. Even though those don't technically apply, we feel it was a good exercise to look into because they're asking for an exception to the rule. The CUP gives that authority to do so, basically vis-a-vis a variance, but just for the exercise of what could this do if this sign is allowed. So the very first criteria for a variance or an exception to the code is the property unique? Is there something about this property that the other properties along K96 do not have to where it should get an exception to the rule? And it's in staff opinion that it's not. There's quite a bit of businesses along K96 who would probably want to, or just properties in general who would want to benefit from the opportunity to have an off-site sign to generate some income. Well, ever since K96 was built, the rule has been there's no billboards, so all of the properties have been treated very fairly. So regarding having adverse effects to the property rights of others, of neighboring properties, if we allow an off-site sign at this location, now all of a sudden, how do we say no to off-site signs on other properties? What makes this site unique to where they get the opportunity to have a true off-site sign when all the other properties would be told no? When you talk about the strict application of the code, producing a hardship on the property, yes, it's a loss of economic opportunity for the applicant, but that rule is standardly applied for the entire length of K96. Of every property on K96, they don't have that opportunity either. So in a sense, they're all still treated fairly. Staff feels that there was disrupt harmonious development, giving this an opportunity, an unfair advantage in a sense to this property owner. That is not the same opportunity that other property owners get along K96. We do not feel that it's in the spirit and intent of the code, because then again, the sign code was written as K96 was being constructed, that the whole point was we're not going to have billboards on K96, and it's going to be this way from the beginning. So we feel that this would set a precedent to where if this is allowed, we would likely see a considerable number of variance requests for off-site signs along K96. That would be hard to justify any decline of that, because we set a precedent with this one. It is in a star bond district. It is technically a special property because of that, but in terms of allowing an off-site sign, when they already have the opportunity to provide advertising for businesses not in Greenwich Place, we feel would be an unfair advantage to them. Overall, staff has two recommendations. The first recommendation is approving the relocation of sign 4. We don't see any problem with that. If they don't want to have sign 4 where it currently is supposed to be built at the south end of that cul-de-sac and want to move it to the curvature of K96 to advertise businesses within the Star Bond District or other businesses within the Greenwich Place Shopping Center, staff does not feel that there's any issue with that. So we're recommending approval that they can move, that it could have the opportunity to relocate to that and still be allowed to advertise signs in the Star Bond District as it currently is now. What staff is recommending denial of is denial of the opportunity for it to be a true off-site sign and vis-a-vis the size increase that was needed in order to fit that template. So those are your two recommendations to consider this morning or this afternoon. Findings for it generally go along the same as we've recently just talked about of the sign code was written this way from the beginning. You know, it's suitable for an off-site sign, but the sign code was this way, and all the properties along K96 have been treated fairly up until this point. So with that, we can go through. We can go through site pictures. If you want to roll through, we'll go and see the surrounding area. So this is technically not on the site that the sign is. I'm just farther back, really right. I'm in the Saltgrass parking lot just south of Chipotle, right when you get into the Greenwich Place Shopping Center, looking to the southeast. This, I believe, is sign 9, and sign 4 would be placed along the K96. Currently would be placed along K96 in this general area. Next picture. This is farther down into Greenwich Place. This is along the curvature, so sign 4 would likely be placed between this sign and this sign. And go to the next picture, we'll see a better orientation of that. So along this frontage, along this curvature of the frontage of the highway would be where sign 4 would be relocated if they chose to do so. Next picture. This is looking to the west. This is the backyards of the single-family homes. Again, you can see it's a considerable distance, and plus it's screened with fencing and landscaping, and so there's no concern over impact to the residential nearby. Next picture. This is farther down on K96. This is south of the property. This is New Spring Church. It's zoned single family, and the frontage of their property they recently sold and put a CUP on it, so it's limited commercial with undeveloped commercial property. Next picture. This is looking to the southwest. This is the backside of Academy Sports, and undeveloped single family residential land. You can see there's a cell tower there. Just more for the vicinity if you're unfamiliar with it. Staff has not heard any public comment on this case. We're hearing this case just because we're recommending something different than what the applicant is requesting. This goes before the District Advisory Board for District 2 next Monday, so we do not have input from them on this case either. And with that, I can stand for any questions.
Any questions of staff?
Yeah, what's the definition of a billboard sign?
Billboard and offsite sign are generally interchangeable. It's advertising for uses that are not on that property. So right now, all the signs that are constructed, they're part of the Greenwich Place or the Wichita Destination Development Community Unit Plan, which is where Greenwich Place is. And all the current signs advertise for businesses within the CUP. So they're on-site signs. Off-site billboard would be truly something that is not on that property. It is somewhere else.
But they're just asking for advertisements within the, that district, not the CUP?
Correct. The sign 4, the way the CUP is written right now, allows sign number 4 to be able to advertise for businesses within the Star Bond district. That's permitted right now. They're looking to take that out of there and just allow it to be whoever wants to rent the space of the sign. I'm sorry?
You want to take that provision out and let anybody use it?
Right, and just let anybody do it. Let any company, it could be an insurance company or whoever, be able to advertise on the sign for wherever they're located.
Any other questions? Thank you, Philip. Applicant or agent, please. You got 10 minutes. Give us your name and address, please.
Kim Edgington, 2532 North Cardinal Drive, Wichita, Kansas, representing the property owner. Just kind of as a point of clarification, by strict terms of the definition of off-site sign, this sign is already an off-site sign because it is allowed to advertise businesses that are outside of this CUP. The Star Bond District is a much greater area than this community unit plan. You guys don't have the map available, is that right, of the entire Star Bond District? It is on page 9 of your handout. So as you can see, that is a far greater area than just the community unit plan. There are dozens and dozens of businesses within that Star Bond District. So we are simply requesting that this sign that is currently a permitted sign up to 500 square feet be increased by just 4 square feet, and that the total allowance for signage be increased by just 4 square feet, and that other businesses also be allowed to advertise on this besides those outside of the Star Bond District. Again, if you look at the boundaries in blue of that Star Bond District, you'll see there are a large range of uses in that. We understand that the sign code, back when this was written in, that there were no billboards allowed along K96. This, however, is a billboard that was written in as an allowed use in this community unit plan. So while it may have made sense at one time to not have billboard advertisements along K96, there is a great deal of commercial development and investment that has gone into that strip since that was written in, since that was restriction. So, and this is technically not a variance. So it is not a variance request. It is an amendment to the CUP. So there are not requirements for CUP amendments to meet the strict variance criteria for approval. As far as the spacing, I think we are definitely in agreement with staff on that. By moving this sign a little farther to the south, it keeps these signs more equally spaced. Kind of right now where it's allowed, where this sign 4 is allowed, kind of bunches them up a little bit there on the west end. So this does spread them out just a little bit. Visually, this sign will look exactly the same, whether it advertises businesses inside the Star Bond District or outside of the Star Bond District. You've got a photo in your packet of the design of that sign. The characteristic Greenwich Place design, that flag-shaped kind of triangular design, will be consistent with the other signs that are already allowed. So we are simply asking, again, that the 4 square feet be added. The sign's going to look exactly the same, whether it advertises businesses in the Star Bond District or outside. And we would just request that you make this adjustment to allow businesses along that heavily traveled corridor to have an opportunity to place advertisements on it. I would be glad to stand for any questions that you might
Any
have.
questions? Ms. Foster?
If the request to make it a true billboard off-site sign that could advertise anything was granted, which I should mention I'm not inclined to do because I don't want to set that precedent. But if that was not granted, would you still want the extra 4 feet? So-
Yes, just because that is a standard billboard, just
Size.
construction, from a construction standpoint, that is a standard size. And I think staff is supportive of that 4
Okay.
feet increase. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone else here in the commission chambers want to speak on this item? Is there anybody virtual want to speak on this item? Anybody virtual? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to commission. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I'd like to, I've got a staff question, I guess. And I don't know if they're going to be able to answer it. I don't know if there's anybody here that's been around long enough to know. Do you know what the thought behind the not allowing billboard or off-site signage along K-96? Why that, were there agreements made at the time K-96 was built? JR, do you have a feel for that?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. J.R. Cox, Metropolitan Planning. For the record, we're going to tax my memory here. I'm getting up there in years, but I will try to answer the question. It is my belief that the regulations were actually put in prior to K-96 being constructed. It does say from I-135 to the east city limits. You all might remember at one time K-96 went on into eastern Kansas, so it went to the east city limits. Now it officially stops at 54, I believe. So they protected that corridor prior to the construction. The idea being that they didn't want a proliferation of off-site billboard signs. Billboard signs, as a rule, are highly regulated. They're not like on-site signs. Further, I have no documentation or evidence, but I think parts of the land for that right-of-way were donated, and I think in consideration of those land donations, that restriction was written into the code. But again, I could not prove that in a court of law, but in my memory, I recall that was part of it. Did that help?
Yeah, that helps. Because I know that there had to have been some reason for that to be the case along K-96 that prevented a billboard / off-site sign as opposed to a sign that advertises
On-site.
business.
Which in a CUP, by our code, a CUP, the entire CUP, is actually considered one zoning lot. So if you think of Town East, there are restaurants at the north end of Town East. They can advertise on Kellogg. They're not off-site. They're actually on-site, and that's, of course, a half-mile distance, so.
And with the Starbond District being a part of that CUP, it does actually encompass that whole area, which provides a lot of potential advertisement on that sign, on the proposed sign that's going to be.
I'd say this CUP is part of the larger Starbond District. There are at least 1 or 2 other CUPs plus some POs, and it's grown over the years. It's not the same district it was, so it's, yeah, and they just basically treated it as one zoning lot, even though it's clearly not.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Mr. Warren?
As a general rule, I find sign ordinances to be overly restrictive, but in this case, I found myself in agreement with staff. We've already stretched the rubber band in allowing all of the businesses in this fairly large area to advertise on this one. Open it up would be an opening that would open the entire K-96 up to this, and I just don't think that that's a road we want to go down. So I'm going to make a motion to move to approve a staff recommendation.
May I make a substitute motion and move to approve the relocation and the increase in size, but deny the off-site sign categorization?
That was, I think that would
That's
be
the
what the
staff
staff
recommendation.
recommended.
No, the staff did not recommend that the increase in size be allowed.
Good.
So a slight change from the staff recommendation.
Do I have this right there? What, only thing they would advertise on this is businesses within the Star Bonds district?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're not talking about like a typical billboard sign that can advertise anything from anywhere.
Right, that's what they're requesting. If that request is denied, they can still
Right.
design it in a horizontal fashion. There's nothing restricting that, and they can, advertise any of the number of businesses within the Star Bond district.
Right. I see this as a kind of a unique situation where you have the Star Bonds district. I think it would help the viability of it, and I would be in favor of approving the sign myself.
We have a substitute motion. Is anybody care to second?
We don't have a second on either one,
Yeah.
on either the motion or the second, or the.
Okay, let's repeat the first motion.
Well, I thought that my motion, staff recommendation did include the additional 4 square foot on the signage.
Well, I will say the staff recommendation actually does not say anything about the size, so I feel it is worth the clarification of the substitute motion.
And I would withdraw my motion.
And I'll second your motion. The substitute, what was the substitute now is the motion.
So do we have the substitute motion down?
So the
Did you
substitute
repeat it?
motion was made by Ms. Foster to approve the increase in size and the ability to relocate the sign, but to deny the ability for it to be a true off-site sign. So staff recommendation still allows it to be advertising businesses within the Star Bond district, just the substitute motion is recommending that stay in place, but to deny the ability to be a full off-site sign.
Okay, any more discussion? All
Can I
in
make a
favor,
substitute
say
motion
aye.
to approve the signage?
I'm sorry?
Can I make a substitute motion to that to actually approve it?
It's legal here.
We're only allowed one substitute. Then the first one was withdrawn, so I don't know.
Yeah,
There can only be one substitute motion, so if the,
My motion was withdrawn.
okay, so that became the main, so then you do have a substitute motion.
yeah, she has the motion and.
It's
Robert
been
has the second.
seconded, but you
So
are
he can
making a
make a
substitute
substitute
motion to what?
Approve it, approve the signage,
Including the full off-site sign?
yes.
Okay.
Do I have a second on that?
Did you get my second?
Cindy,
Cindy seconded it. Any discussion on that one? If not, we'll vote on the substitute motion first, correct?
Yes. Would you like a roll call, sir? Okay, and this is to approve per the request of the applicant.
Correct.
So to allow therefore the advertisements from outside the Star Bond as well as inside.
Oh, is this would they be allowed to advertise from outside the Starbucks district?
Yes.
Right, their request is to be able to advertise from outside the Star.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood that then. I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, so the motion is withdrawn.
Seconds go to O's.
does
Cindy?
Ms. Miles withdraw her second?
You withdraw your
I can
second?
withdraw my second, yes.
Okay. We're gonna vote on the motion then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carries 12-0. Next item is 4.4, zoning case 2022-00035.
Good afternoon, Erin Bachfriend with the Planning Department. Zone 2022-00035 is a request for a zone change from B multifamily residential to LC limited commercial for the 0.3 acre property located on the west side of Northwest Street and with a quarter mile of West Sioux Boulevard. The subject site is currently developed with a two-family residence that is being used as office space. The use as an office is an illegal use in the current B zoning. The applicant has indicated that they intend to sell the subject property, but want to bring the use into compliance before doing so. If approved, the requested zone change would permit the current use as a general office as well as all their permitted uses by right in the LC Limited Commercial District. The subject site is located within the established central area and is just outside the edge of the West 13th Street North and Northwest Street neighborhood hub as identified by the Places for People plan. Development in this area generally follows a strip corridor pattern with commercial uses and zoning along Northwest Street, and then residential neighborhoods and zoning to the east and west of the arterial. Paul, if we could please go to we got it. So you'll see there, the zoning map. So you'll see there the limited commercial zoning on the east side of the street, and then further south, the general office zoning in green there to the north, and south limited commercial zoning, and then farther west there is a large single-family SF5 district. I do want to note that while there is limited commercial and general office zoning surrounding the subject site, properties to the north, south, and west are all developed with single-family homes. If we could go to the land use map, please. The 2035 Wichita Future Growth Concept Map identifies the subject area as appropriate for residential uses. You can see there. These include the full range of housing densities and types, as well as neighborhood serving uses. The requested LC zoning would permit uses outside of what is suggested by the map and the community investments plan. Due to the range of commercial uses permitted in the LC district, staff feels the requested zoning would be inconsistent with the current context of development along the Northwest Street corridor, and staff has recommended that the application for LC limited commercial zoning be denied, and instead recommends the approval of GO general office zoning for this site. That is generally due to the principles of the comprehensive plan and the suggestion that new development and infill development are consistent to the current neighborhood context, and staff feels that a GO zoning at this site abutting the two other GO properties would add into that GO general office district and serve as part of the buffer, buffering the residential properties to the west from the commercial properties to the east along Northwest Street. Additionally, this zone would ensure a smooth transition in scale and intensity of uses moving west from the commercial properties to the surrounding residential neighborhood. The District Advisory Board 6 did hear this case on August 1st, I'm sorry. There was not a quorum present, and so there was not a recommendation made by the District Advisory Board, but we did discuss the case. I have heard from one adjacent property owner who is not in support of the limited commercial zoning, and at that time, we did not speak to the GO zoning because that was not applicable. If we could go to the photos of the site. So this is the subject site, so that the office space facing north. Next photo, please. This is the site's frontage onto Northwest Street. As you can see, it fronts the street there. I have an additional view of the property. This is the side or kind of backyard of the property. This is the adjacent residence to the west zoned GO, and it is a single-family residence. Across Northwest Street, there is a vehicle repair shop that is zoned limited commercial. And then these are garden homes. So if you look on the, if we can go back, well, here, we won't switch back, but on the zoning map, if you can see farther north, there is a multifamily development of garden homes, and that is that photo there. And then I think that's the same. So I'd be happy to answer
any questions of staff? Any questions? Guess not. Thank you. Applicant or agent?
Hi, my name is Ben Gertner, and sorry, it looks like I've got a little feedback here. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Ben Gertner, and I am the broker that's representing the owner in this case.
Could you give us your address, please?
Yes. Address, well, of course, you have the property address of 1101 Northwest Street, and then my address is 150 North Market Street, Wichita, Kansas.
Go ahead then. Go ahead.
And so looking at this, I think that based on the staff recommendations, one thing is apparent to me that perhaps was not conveyed, I did not convey properly, was that the intent of this is certainly not to have a very intensive use under limited commercial, but it's to allow as many possible uses for the given development that's already there. In the pictures you saw, there was some equipment and things outside, and the reason for that is not because that's how it's being used, but in fact because the property has been under renovation for the past several months. And so they've spent a significant amount of money on that. So one thing that I thought that might ease the concerns that some might have of perhaps that being knocked down and putting some sort of more intensive use that limited commercial would allow would be to propose that the limited commercial zoning be allowed so long as that structure remains. And so the character of that property would not effectively change and would not affect the adjacent properties in any way. Up and down West Street, as noted on the map, and I believe I sent a couple screenshots that show maybe slightly different view, but essentially the same information that you have in your packet, that all up and down West Street, there are limited commercial zonings on both sides of the street. And so some of the concerns about this being inconsistent seem that perhaps it would only be inconsistent if there was some sort of intensive limited commercial use. You knock the building down and you construct something else there, which is, again, not the intent of this. The intent is that the property lends itself to either retail or office use, given its visibility on West Street, and it is the owner's intent to sell it as a commercial property with the ability of a new buyer to use it in that manner. That's all I have for that. If anybody has any questions or any comments on that I can address, I'd be happy to do so.
Any questions, Agent? Ms. Funker? Oh, Mr. Warren.
Mr. Gertner, I'm assuming that there's going to be a number of uses that are allowed under limited commercial that irregardless of what the owner does to this particular site would not be proper for the neighborhood. As I'm sitting here now, I'm leaning towards denial of the limited commercial unless you wanted to defer, go back and enumerate those things that you might want to protect under limited commercial that wouldn't hurt the neighborhood. I'm not willing to do that now in a negotiation at this point because I'd have to be one of those things to think about. But there are certain things that are not allowed in general office, but that are allowed in commercial that you specifically would want to protect for the use. Then we could take a look at that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I actually have a list here of those things. If you'd like, we can go through them and get more specific if you think that's the way to go about it.
Could you hang on a second?
Sure.
I don't know if that's right to be negotiating that type of stuff. I mean, I almost think if we're going to look at that, we need to defer it for a couple of weeks or something. I don't know.
I think that would be helpful because what would have to be crafted is a PO essentially, and then in that PO we would have to have all the language. And if there's, a couple things maybe could be covered during this meeting, but if we get a long list, I'd really hate to take up everyone's time, and who knows if we missed something and there's details that need to be addressed.
It's not long. There are just
hang on, sir.
Couple.
Hang on.
Sorry.
Or you're just giving that information directly to us right now. I don't feel right. Planning needs to buy in on it. And so
Can I explain
just hang on.
something for a second?
Huh?
Can I make a comment?
Oh, he had. Let Mr. Green in.
I'm glad that the protective overlay option has come up. I have, when I looked at this earlier today, I was in agreement to approve for the limited commercial. I had the little lingering concern in the back of my mind that it could be anything that falls under limited commercial auspices, and I wasn't sure that I could agree with that. What I like about this property being zoned limited commercial, however, is that there is a buffer of GO on both the north and the west of this property that would be a buffer to the residential, along with the fact that we have limited commercial both north and south of this property, included in our handout today, that has a number of limited commercial properties that butt right up to residential or SF5 zoning. So I would appreciate the opportunity to look at a protective overlay, and if we need to defer for 2 weeks, I would be in favor of doing that.
Ms. Foster?
I was just going to clarify for Mr. Gartner, and staff can correct me if I'm misleading him, but the problem from our perspective, sir, is that once this property is sold, no matter what your current owner's intent is, if we make it limited commercial, then any use listed under limited commercial could happen there, and there are some uses that I don't think anybody on this board is terribly comfortable with for that location. Are you comfortable with deferring for a couple of weeks so you can work with staff to come up with a solution that works for both you and us?
I think that's certainly an option. My understanding from a previous zoning case I was involved in was that there's a way to write it in such a way where the
uses are limited. Yeah, that's a protective overlay, and that's what we're talking about as an option.
Not just that, actually. What I was going to say was that if the building is ever removed, that the zoning can revert to a different or classification, or you would have to go back. I don't remember exactly what the previous zoning case was that I recall that there was a stipulation that they made on the spot that if the part of a building was removed, then one of the curb cuts would be removed or something of that nature. So we can certainly defer. I don't think that'd be a problem. be happy to work with the staff on that. If in
Yeah,
fact you don't think you can make a determination like that now.
That way you can share your information with staff and vice versa, and we'll have it all straight. I am going to say,
Okay.
I think we have someone that wants to speak on this item.
I think you guys covered what my question was. I was just, I'm the owner of the property.
Oh, so
Come to the mic and give us your name. Huh?
And I just wanted to, mention that the property to the south is a light commercial property that backs up to residential.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that
Thank
was just my concern. Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else in the commission?
name and address?
Hey, could you give us your name and address again, please?
Ben Gardner, 150 North Market, Wichita,
No, yours.
Kansas.
Ted
Sorry, Ben.
McCormick, it's 1101 Northwest Street. And do you want my personal address?
Yeah.
4060 North Reed, Mace, Kansas. Building a house, so I'm in an apartment right now. So
Okay, thank you. Anybody in the commission chambers want to speak on this item? Anybody virtual want to speak on this item? Hearing none, bring it back to commission. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to defer to the next regular meeting.
Second?
Enough time for staff?
Motion by Mr. Warren, second by Mr. Green. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carries 12-0. If everybody's, Joe's still here. Any other business? Scott's got additional information.
Yes, sir. Just one important, but I'll try and make it relatively brief, announcement, and that is that our summer interns, Natalie and Tanner, are on the verge of successfully completing their internship. We're very excited that they've been here to join us. They are both from K-State and have very well represented that institution, and we have been... And we are very excited that at the work that they've been able to do. They've done some very high quality reports and research for us and quite a bit of legwork. So we're very appreciative of their efforts. And I believe their last day will be on the 8th. Is that correct? Hopefully I got that right. If not, okay. So we've got a little bit of time with them, but I want to recognize them.
Anything else, Scott?
That's it, sir.
We're adjourned.